it doesn't have to be painful. It's good to address the big question. Ultimately, where did physical matter come from? Because we know that nothing physical is coming out of physical nothingness. We know that. I'm just gonna put my box away. But what about the other stuff? There were these physicists, Miller and Urey, U-R-E-Y, their last names, and they tried to replicate, the circumstances at the onset of what would become the first, self-replicating cell. And they tried to theorize this primordial soup. Primordial as in like before life itself. And they postulated that lightning may have struck this like goop that had all the origins and all the ingredients you would need for like a living organism or a cell. And so they electrocuted some of the ingredients they just frankly assumed would be in this theoretical soup. And what they came out with, it included some amino acids. Great, that's cool. That was sufficient for the scientific community. Say, okay, this is how life began. Like lightning struck primordial soup, the world's first self-replicating organism and self-healing organism, gave rise to all of life. And it is no stretch at all to say that we went from that theoretical first cell to like Oprah and like Justin Bieber. That's where it all came from. That can't be sufficient for you, right? Like that can't be enough because, come on, we just know life is irreducibly complex. It's specific in its functionality, that a single cell that can replicate itself is not enough to account for all of life, every sensory capacity. And by the way, the pesky issue of sexual reproduction, like where did the first two organisms meet and how without a sense of sight and smell and touch and hearing? It's just time to face this. It's just time to acknowledge it, that life does not come from non-life. This is elemental to everything within atheism. It's unavoidable. It's positively unavoidable. It's called abiogenesis. The prefix a negating bio as in life, and then genesis obviously meaning beginning. So it's like this life from non-life beginning. And I know it seems absurd, and that's because, frankly, it is. But it's time to address these questions. Do you genuinely believe with your whole heart? And all the more importantly, are you willing to stake, potentially even, eternity on the idea that life came from like a puddle? Moreover, if life came from an accidentally electrocuted puddle and inexplicably went on through an incalculable series of fortuitous mutations and generations of offspring that were better than their parents for billions of years, and that's where like sight came from and hearing came from and all this, ultimately then doesn't that mean there's really just no such thing as right and wrong? That, I mean, if I just kind of ultimately my ancestry came from a puddle and your ancestry ultimately just kind of came from a puddle? Like, wouldn't it ultimately mean that there's no such thing as murder? It's just just an adaptive herd trait. But come on, to the marrow of our bones, we know. Every time we turn on the news and we see something horrible that's happened, we'll like shake our fist. I mean, like, maybe I'm overly dramatic. Maybe I'm like shaking my fist at my TV. My TV seems unimpressed with my fist, but nonetheless, we'll see something wrong. We'll say, that's wrong. By what standard do we do that? We're presupposing that there is like this transcendent moral law, that there is a sense of right and wrong, and like it's like written in stone, and we just know it to the core of our beings. But if we just kind of came out of a puddle, that's all a lie. And even a 1% chance, even like a 0.001% chance that there is a right and there is a wrong, there is a morality, there is a creator, is worth staking your whole life seeking the creator out. So let's face it. We know that nothing's coming out of this box physically. We know that life doesn't come from non-life. And if there's even a chance that there really is a sense of right and wrong, these are discussions worth having. And for these reasons, I'm incredibly glad that you've joined us.